Welcome back to the Fawn River edging tutorial. I'm going to be using this small sample that I worked up just to teach you how to get the edging nice and even. The first thing that we're going to do when you complete your afghan, of course, is get all of your edges tucked in, you know, all of the little strings that pop out on the side. Get it nice and neat. And then you're going to start at the bottom where your work actually began. This is our bottom of our work. And in the original chain 2 that you started with, or I shouldn't say original chain 2, it's the turning chain from our original chain 39. You're going to be treating that like it is a stitch, okay? So I stick my hook in there and pull up a small loop. What we're going to be doing to establish a nice straight border, because we're going to be doing single crochet around all 4 sides, is we're going to be slip stitching kind of a guide row up the edges. So let's start there. Now I put in, okay, how each of these colors, it's actually 2 rows, but I put 3 slip stitches per 2 rows, if that makes any sense. We're going to count this as 1. This is a set of 2 rows, and this is a set of 2 rows. So this is number 1, number 2, and number 3 for this set of 2 rows. I just also want to warn you too that the further in you go here, the larger you're going to end up with a chunk or row to the back side of your work when you put your actual side on. Okay, so yeah, we'll go into, this is kind of the chain 2 space where it joins. So we'll go 1, and there's not really any, you know, specific place you have to put these, just 3 per 2 rows. All right, there's 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Hang on, I split my yarn here. And I don't want to do that because it makes for kind of a funky edge. 2 and 3. See, can you see how it's creating kind of this ridge in here? I want to make sure that I maintain a nice tight edge up to the side of my blanket. 1, 2, 3. Now you don't have to do this way. The reason I'm doing this way is because I like the neatness of the border that it creates. If this ridge bothers you more than, because this is what it, hang on, I'm gonna go up here past the white so you can see what I'm doing. There's 1, 2, and 3. So this is what it would look like if you were going to single crochet right into the side. Do you see the difference between that kind of edging and there's this row here? Now this really isn't going to hit you until, actually let me show you the example of the actual blanket. This is one of the sides here. Do you see how you can't see every individual single crochet on the edge? It's because it creates this little ridge back here, which isn't really that big, but if it bothers you more than, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I call it an ugly side. If the ridge bothers you more than an ugly single crochet side, then don't feel like you have to do it my way. I'm just showing you a way that I've learned, and if I remember correctly, it was either Attic 24 or Felted Button that came up with this slip stitch side to make a more finished edge. So I'm going to take these 3 back out, and I'm going to finish up this side. Okay, so this is going to be its own. Okay, so there's those 2 rows, and then I'm going to throw one more into the side over here for this one, and then the chain 2 where we turned, I'm also going to include that. Okay, there's my side, and then I'm going to cut this off. And I'm going to attach on this side, and obviously it's opposite because there's only 3, 1, 2, 3, where there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of the brown down here. So just repeat what we did on this side, where we did 1, or actually 2 in this top row, and then 3 in the next. All right, so go ahead and reattach that and go down the side. Here's where individuality is going to come into play for you. It doesn't really matter how many rows you go up in this pattern. You can make this blanket as long as you want. You can make the blanket as wide as you want. When we're doing the edging, the only thing that you want to be absolutely sure of is that as many slip stitches as you put in on this side, you want to make that exact same amount on this side so that your edges are even. All right, in the top of my work, I'm going to start my actual edging. In the same chain 2 that we turned with up here, that we also put a stitch into, this is 1. We're going to put a total of 3 into this. So I'm going to start with a chain 1, and then I'm going to put 2 single crochets into this, and this is what we're going to call our corner space, okay? And then you're going to put a single into each of the half double crochets going across. I have I have single crocheted in each of the half double crochets going across the top of my work over to the other side where we have the last half double crochet. In this, I am going to put 2. The reason I'm only putting 2 is because this stitch right here is basically a proxy for this side, okay? So we're actually going to use those loops instead of the actual stitch itself. This still creates our corner, and it'll become more defined in the next row. But we're now going to use only these white loops that you slip stitched to put single crochets down the side. And I'm just going to show you how that looks on the back side. See, this is where we're creating that ridge, but the front is very pretty and neat. All right, keep going down the side. The side single crochet, see where it creates that small ridge there. If you're working with a big blanket, it really isn't going to be that ostentatious. So here we are back at the last slip stitch, and we are going to use this once again as a proxy for the first single crochet of the corner. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and 3. The reason why I'm being so careful about how many I put in is because I want my corners to be nice and crisp and not be too bulky. I don't want one to poke out more than the other, be wonky on the edges, that kind of thing. And now you're just going to put single crochets in each of the stitches going across the bottom. This is another reason why I like putting all of my beginning stitches into the back loop of my chain, because it makes it very simple to then single crochet into each one, because it looks just like a single crochet on the top. I'm back at my opposite corner. Once again, we're going to, this is going to be a proxy, but we're going to now have to put 2 single crochets into the chain 2 space that we put our slip stitch into. So 1, 2, and then let's go over here and grab this guy, 3. Okay. And once again, do your stitches up the side. I'm now on my last corner. Now remember when we started, we just put 2 in that first one there. So I'm gonna pull this yarn to the back side. I'm gonna put my last single crochet. This is a part of my corners. So this is 1, 2, and 3. I'm gonna slip stitch to the first single crochet of this round. And there we have our edging begun. Look at how neat those sides are. Now just for full disclosure, so you can see front and back, one side is maybe a little more bulky than the other. That just comes with practice. The more you do it, the less bulky your side will be. And you'll find the sweet spots for all your stitches and slip stitches. But we're gonna continue to do our side here. And now this is where your corners are going to become more pronounced and more defined for where you're not going to be using proxy stitches or anything like that. So go ahead and chain 1 and put 3 single crochets into this first stitch, because this is your corner. Every corner stitch, I should say, every middle stitch, because there's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. Every middle stitch, this guy right here, is going to get 3 single crochets, because that is your corner stitch. And from there, you are just going to single crochet in each stitch going around. I'm at my second corner. I've gone across the top with another row of single crochet. I'm at stitch number 1 of the corner. This is the second stitch, so this is the one that's going to get our 3, 2, 3, and then this would have been our proxy stitch, but that's the 3rd stitch of our corner. Okay, and now just keep going. So every time that you hit the corner, just remember where you're at. This is the, when you're working the sides, this is the proxy stitch, so this would be the second stitch. This is your corner stitch. When you're working on the bottom portion, you get over to here, your proxy stitch is going to be on the side over here. I'm sorry, over here. So this is going to be your second stitch. The middle stitch of your corner always gets the 3. All right, keep going. I'm going to meet you back over here where we started, and then the next row is we're going to start our moss stitch. Into the final corner, and I'm going to slip stitch to my first single crochet to join. Now I'm going to also slip stitch into the corner space, because I always want to be working from my corner when I'm doing my edging. It just helps me keep myself straight as to where I am. Go ahead and chain 1 and put 3 single crochets into that same space again. Now we are going to start the moss stitch, which is a chain 1, skip 1, single crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, single in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, single. Okay, continue that move across to the other corner. I'm over to my other corner from my beginning corner. Now, if you want your chain 1, skip 1, single crochets to line up perfectly so that you are going into the corner stitch by the time that you get over here, you need to have an odd number of stitches available between your corner single crochets. So between the one that you put your 3 in each corner. I have an even number here. I don't get real hung up on whether or not my corners are absolutely perfect, because it's never going to show. So I'm chain one, skipping one, single crocheting. This would be the first one of the corner stitches. So I'm putting my 3 into the second. And I'm gonna chain one and skip one and single and continue on around. So that's how you handle your corners. My sides are uneven. I'm gonna have 33 stitches in between instead of, like, up on the top I have 40 stitches in between, or 42 stitches in between my corner single crochets. So mine's gonna line up perfectly where I am gonna skip that last one on the corner over here and just go right into there. But just keep going. If you've got any questions, you can always get a hold of me online. I have worked the moss stitch all the way around. I'm skipping the last one and slipping with the first single crochet in my corner up here. Okay, I'm actually going to cut off my white now because I want to do a different color every other row, just because I like the way that it highlights pretty colors from the blanket, and you can use it as a really nice way to bring, you know, some of these colors in here that maybe we're hiding. You know, if you're in a blanket and you've got 1 or 2 colors that are really pretty but they're super subtle in there, it's a way to bring it out into the edging. All right, I am a big fan of starting in my corner space, so I'm going to find that middle single crochet on my corner, and I'm going to join, chain one, and put my 3 single crochets. And then I'm simply going to repeat the same pattern that I did the row below. I'm going to chain one, skip one, but now I'm going to single crochet into the chain one space. I love these rows because they go kind of fast. It's a nice, simple way of putting a very pretty and dynamic border on. I took the liberty of putting the rest of the colors on my border, and I've gone ahead and finished off with 1 white row in the moss stitch. Now at this point, you can decide what you want to do to finish off your edging. The way that I did it on the original blanket is I just did 1 more row of white moss stitch. Otherwise, you can do kind of like what we have established here, where there's 2 rows of single crochet. You could single crochet in each one of your chain ones, each one of your single crochets going across, making sure to always put your 3 single crochets in the corner. It's really up to you how you want to finish it off. If you're looking to be done, if you have hit the end of your road, then stop. Go ahead and cut off. I'm gonna go ahead and do, let's see, I'm gonna slip stitch into my corner, chain 1, 3 single crochet, and I'm going to put 1 more row of seed stitch or moss stitch, it's either one, on here because I like that little bit of extra white going around. See how that blocks it in a little bit nicer. I'm gonna finish that up. I'll be right back. I finished up my second moss stitch border, and the way that this turned out, I think I'm gonna make a second one, and I'm gonna sew them together, and I'm gonna use this for a cushion cover and make a pillow to go along. This pattern has a very simple beauty to it. I also wanted to show you too that this I used doing the washcloth pattern, so I had the extra row of half double crochet at the top. However, when you make the blanket, stop on row 2 where this one is the double treble, and this one is just the half double crochet that you come back with. Don't do that extra row on the blanket before you start your edging. unless you like the way that that little ridge sticks up. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the Fawn River, and I hope you enjoy making your very own.